How strong is a gaur compared to other bovids? Let's meet the gaur, an animal you may not be so familiar with, and if not, you might be lucky. When we say meet, we're going to keep our distance, a lot of distance, and just look at the gaur from a safe place. These things won't just ruin your day, they'll ruin those plans you had to keep living. But that's just you, a puny human. How does the gaur stack up against other bovids? Is he the life ruiner no matter which animal he comes across? How strong is the gaur compared to other bovids? Bovids. Let's just give a quick breakdown on bovids, as they may not be the most talked about animal family. Bovids in the family Bovidae are cloven-hoofed ruminant animals. This means they are herbivores, but plenty of them tend to get big. You may think of some species in the Bovidae family such as cattle, sheep, and goats. But it isn't just those common species. There are 143 living species of bovids. Bovids can technically be found on every continent except for Antarctica. However, bovids in South America are owned by farmers, raised for meat and milk. There are no wild bovids in South America, and as for Australia, bovids were brought there and mated with the European cattle, and their offspring have escaped making for feral bovids in certain areas. However, wild bovids are found all over Asia, Europe, Africa, and North America. Gaurs. But the gaur is just found in Asia. More specifically, Southeast Asia, with populations in countries like India, Myanmar, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, and Vietnam. Gaurs are massive animals, ranging between 8 and 11 feet long when fully grown. Males are 6 feet 2 inches tall at the shoulder, which puts their shoulders at a higher height than most humans. They also have a prominent hump in their back that usually stands at 6 feet and 7 inches tall. And if we're talking about an adult male gaur, 1,200 pounds is a little guy. Male gaurs can be 3,300 pounds. They have a convex ridge on their forehead between their two deadly horns. Those horns 2 feet in length, minimum. Oftentimes they reach 45 inches long, almost 4 feet. And a gaur is not just large, he's not just all talk and no walk. The gaur is so immensely strong and surprisingly agile. When they charge, they move a lot faster than you'd want this 1.5-ton behemoth to move. In a full sprint, gaurs can top speeds of 30 miles per hour. A bovid typically tends to be a prey animal of the largest predators around. We know lions take down bovids that can weigh twice as much as them, and even bigger than the lion is the native to Asia, the tiger, the world's largest of the big cats, an apex predator, a menace. And there have been so many instances in which a tiger is absolutely destroyed by a gaur. Gaurs can become extremely aggressive if they feel threatened, and even sometimes when they're not threatened, they can snap in an instant, and far too many tigers have snapped as a result. They think a gaur is going to be an animal they can take down and feast on for days and days. Instead, the gaur mauls the tiger, and now that tiger doesn't have to worry about where his next meal will come from. There will be no more meals. Antelopes. We want to investigate as many of the 143 bovids as we can, but clearly we won't get through them all. One of the very common animals in the Bovidae family is the antelope. There are many kinds of antelopes, some in Asia, many in Africa. The biggest antelope in the world is the giant eland, a spiral-horned antelope. Almost 6 feet tall at the shoulder, about 7 to 9.5 feet long, males weighing between 800 and 2,600 pounds. Those spiral horns can come in handy to attack, but this guy doesn't hold a candle to the gaur. A giant eland possesses some power, but he wouldn't last more than a minute in the ring with the gaur. A gaur is far superior to the giant eland and to any antelope. Gazelles. Similar to the antelope, gazelles are extremely common bovids in the world, and there are many kinds. The largest gazelle is the Dama gazelle. We won't spend too much time on these guys. If a Dama gazelle was up against one of the gaur's legs, he'd get destroyed in minutes. Dama gazelles typically don't weigh more than 160 pounds. This just goes to show you the range of animals in the Bovidae family and how the gaur is near the top of it when it comes to size. But how do other bovids compare? Some have to present a challenge to the gaur. Bighorn sheep. One of the scariest sheep in the world is the bighorn sheep. Just look at that headpiece. The pair of horns alone will likely weigh 30 pounds. Bighorn sheep are scattered throughout much of western North America, standing about 41 inches at the shoulder. They have large horn cores, enlarged corneal and frontal sinuses, and internal bony septa. What does all that mean? It means their brain can be protected from all the headbutting they engage in. You never want to face off against an animal that has no hesitancy about ramming his head into you as hard as he can. The damage a bighorn sheep can inflict is huge. Predators beware. But even the biggest of bighorn sheep tend to be in the ballpark of 500 pounds. They're feisty sheep, but a charging gaur would still mangle a bighorn sheep. Still not a bovid that's a match for the gaur. Scimitar oryx. Maybe the best strategy is to find a bovid with weapons, long weapons. How about the scimitar oryx? He literally has scimitars on his head. That's a scary sight, with those horns able to reach 4 feet in length. The horns curve backwards slightly. They're symmetrical, thin and long. They can fend off predators in Africa all right, but those horns look too thin to stop the 3,000-pound beast running close to 30 miles per hour. They might snap. The scimitar oryx is about 450 pounds at best. He's got weapons, but he doesn't possess brute strength anywhere near the gaur. Mountain goats. Here's a sturdy goat found in North America, mainly in parts of Western Canada, the mountain goat. Mountain goats are the largest mammals in their alpine habitats, found in high elevations at around 13,000 feet. They're well adapted to the altitude and extremely strong with their ability to climb rocky terrain and move through harsh conditions quickly. They can even power up a slope as steep as 60 degrees. Though strong when it comes to climbing and definitely a solid bovid, this goat rarely exceeds 200 pounds and can't come close to the gaur. The gaur may not be suited for scaling mountains, but he's more than suited to throw around his giant muscular body and push this goat right off the mountain. Luckily for the mountain goat, the gaur won't be up there. Okay, are there any bovids that compare to the size of a gaur? Yaks. You ask, we supply. Meet the yak, a bovid of behemoth proportions. Yaks are huge because they need to endure cold conditions. You can find them in northern Tibet and western Qinghai. They're found primarily in treeless uplands from 9,000 to 18,000 feet above sea level. That's why this yak is stacked. It's one of the largest living bovid species, standing 6 feet and 7 inches at the shoulder, a little higher than that of the gaur, and they can be 8 to 12 feet long. We told you the yak is big. And though he has a large volume, his density is not quite the same. Make no mistake, this yak can reach 2,600 pounds, but the gaur has him beat. In addition to being heavier and more muscular, the gaur is more vicious. That fight may go the distance, but our gaur would still emerge victorious. Muskox. Another large bovid is the muskox, native to the Arctic, and sporting thick hair to keep him warm in the extremely cold climates that he lives in. Muskox have sharp horns that they use for defense and attacking when needed. And the head has a built-in defense system. The skull is so thick it can absorb many blows. A muskox can be over 8 feet long and stand nearly 5 feet tall at the withers. However, when you see this humongous animal and you see its massive head with its immensely thick skull, you expect it to be larger than it is. The large head and massive amounts of hair suggest the animal will be larger, but they don't usually weigh over 1,000 pounds. Still, plenty of 900-pound muskox roam these frigid lands, and they are very powerful creatures. They just aren't as strong as the gaur. They aren't as fast, and they aren't as agile. However, the muskox is often compared to a nearby cousin. Maybe he can answer the bell. American bison. Meet the cousin, the American bison. This is North America's largest mammal. The American bison has large shoulder and neck muscles and sharp horns atop that massive head. Look at that thing. It's no surprise their favorite attack is the headbutt, and boy does that headbutt do damage. The American bison can be twice the size of the muskox. Try 11.5 feet long and 2,600 pounds of rippling muscles. Here's a tip, watch the tail. If it's hanging down and swishing back and forth normally, the American bison is calm. If the tail is straight up, watch out, it's likely ready to charge. The American bison can run up to 35 miles per hour and has done heavy damage to people and animals alike when it decides to charge, sometimes flying into a fury in a second. Yes, the American bison would put up a fight against the gaur. He is nearly as strong, nearly as big, but the gaur is still bigger and tougher. European bison. If you're thinking, well, an American bison couldn't get the job done, but maybe the European bison could, it's not a bad thought. Another humongous bovid. It is the heaviest wild land animal in all of Europe, but he's a little smaller than his American brother. Almost 11 feet long, almost 2,100 pounds. Fast, powerful, can charge at a moment's notice. Unfortunately, if the American brother couldn't defeat the Gaur, the European bison couldn't either. They could bring their continents together and team up on the Gaur, but that hardly seems fair. Buffaloes. It's time to bring in our last chance. The big guns, buffaloes. There are water buffaloes native to Asia. They may actually have run-ins with the Gaur. And then in Africa, you have the Cape buffalo. Water buffalo in Asia can be 10 feet long, 2,600 pounds, and have thick, deadly horns. They'll use those horns in defense against an impending tiger attack. And the Cape buffalo, he is known to have a bad attitude. They get extremely violent and are so dangerous. Many people in Africa revere this as the most dangerous animal on the continent. The water buffalo is heavier and taller, but the Cape buffalo has a long, stocky body, 11 feet long, 2,000 pounds. When a lion attacks, a Cape buffalo can defend itself well, impaling its enemies with its horns or flinging them into the air. However, the case with both water buffalo and Cape buffalo is that they can defend themselves from predators, from tigers or lions, but they often succumb to the hungry felines. With a Gaur, it is far less likely that will happen. The Gaur is the tiger killer. He is the nightmare of wild felines. He is too big and too strong and too violent. The buffaloes can't run with him, not even the violent Cape buffalo. When it comes down to it, of all the bovid species, the Gaur is the largest and the strongest. He's the most dangerous bovid on the planet. You're lucky you haven't run into one.